Hello Dungry family, welcome back. These days we have a lot of denial by feminism and humanism that there really is much of a difference between the genders and that men and women are basically the same. In the light of this, I need to explore these ideas from a biblical perspective, as always, and really investigate whether men and women are different in terms of the way they think, the way they function, and what they were intended to do on this earth in their lives. I want to investigate how men represent strength and women represent vulnerability. Also support my claims with some studies. I found quite a few social studies and gender studies that support my theories. So let's talk about women's rights and what the biblical answer is for upholding the dignity of women and doesn't require women themselves to fight for themselves. That is a losing battle, especially when you see now how men are intrinsically stronger than women. The advantage is on their side. If they don't conduct themselves appropriately, they will win and we will lose. So what is the answer? Clearly God made it this way. In this video, we are going to talk about the man's responsibility because I am talking about how men are responsible for the well-being of women, but most importantly for their protection. The reason for this is because men are stronger and men have the authority given to them by God, and it is shown in every aspect of the way we are made as men and women. Men are just naturally have a stronger, more authoritative presence. Women have a more congenial, pleasant presence. People are more likely to take instructions from a man than from a woman. And you can argue that yes, that is a gender stereotype. It's just ingrained in the culture because of centuries of training and teaching, oppression. Call it what you may. From what I've noticed after 100 years of everyone cooperating really hard to elevate women and to make them equal with men, I'm not seeing much of a difference. In fact, there have been studies done in Sweden and some advanced first world countries proving that advancing women and opening up opportunities for women in areas men have had the competitive advantage for centuries actually succeeds in having the opposite effect when there is a artificial accommodation of advancing women in business and sciences and spheres of influence. Women naturally chose more feminine occupations and more stereotypically feminine occupations than before. That's what the studies have shown. It's actually reversed the effects that they wanted to have. There's a very interesting discussion Jordan Peterson had with some on a Swedish talk show where they were discussing the effects of the study. It's quite humorous to watch because the interviewer was refusing to accept this fact that was concluded by the study. You can go look up all the information, it's all there. There's a lot about the assumptions that we're making about genders and that we are actually made differently. And I think it's very sad that we think it's a bad thing that women are different to men. I think that's very sad. We're losing something so beautiful in our society if we disavow our femininity and we just cast it aside as something, as a hindrance, as something that was imposed upon us, instead of something that's God-given and has a special role in society, has a special role for men and for our children. No one else can do that. And you take that away from society because women are so busy competing with men and trying to climb up the corporate ladder and trying to make a name for themselves and getting into politics. We're so busy doing those things that we're just shedding our beauty. We're shedding our sweetness and our tenderness and our compassion. Studies have shown men are more aggressive, men are more strategic, more goal-oriented than women. Women tend to have a more nurturing approach, even in leadership positions. They have a more nurturing, cooperative, participative approach in their leadership, which results in a softer form of authority, and men just carry a stronger, less compassionate form of authority. So both have their advantages and disadvantages. Let's look at the role that the man has towards his wife from a biblical perspective, what God expects of the man. 1 Peter 3, verse 6 to 8. Likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together in the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered. So let's focus on that phrase, or two phrases, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel, and then being heirs together in the grace of life. So the entire structure of that verse is recognizing that men have the advantage. They have the authority, they have the headship, and the woman is at his mercy in terms of the kind of life she could lead, because she's going to obey him, she's going to follow him if she's a godly woman. You know, even an ungodly woman or a woman who rebels or fights for her will to overcome her husband's will, even in that case, the husband still has the advantage because just of how he's made, the way his mind works. Obviously physical strength, but hopefully it's not coming to that. You are going to have a hard time battling wits with your husband, talking him down. What usually happens is the husband takes a back seat because he doesn't want to fight. Men understand strategy. They understand where it ends, where it leads. And the last thing he wants is for his wife to be his enemy, or to be the one who he has to pick up battle with all the time. It's the last thing he wants. He wants someone who's at his side and supporting him. So most of the time, men just call it quits. If this woman's taking up her arms every time with him, they call it quits. They take a back seat. And to most people, that looks like they've given up and the woman's won. It might look that way, but he just hasn't engaged. And yes, that is cowardly, admittedly. If he was to engage, he could do it and he would win, but it would be ugly. And it is not going to produce the beautiful fruits of a blessed and unified marriage. She basically has to make up her mind and submit herself. Submission is a voluntary act from within the woman. So what this passage is saying is it's a protection over the woman. It's a protection over her weakness, her vulnerability. She's vulnerable towards her husband. She could be misused and poorly treated. So this verse is telling the husband, give her a good life. Let her be a fellow heir in the grace of life with you. Dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel. So have understanding. Don't condemn her because she's hormonal or she makes no sense sometimes. It's not her fault. It's the way she's made. Live with her in an understanding way and give her grace, give her honor, treat her with tenderness and kindness. Let your prayers be not hindered. That's quite a interesting point there. So scripture has no problem acknowledging that women have a certain vulnerability to them and that men are the strong ones. However, social justice campaigns seem to ignore or circumvent the fact that women do think differently to men and behave differently to men and have different desires and motivations, and that men are stronger and, in a sense, more capable in the business arena and sciences. Now, this doesn't put women down. It just means we have different spheres of operation. Even with this huge push for women to be accommodated and enrolled in advanced sciences and technologies at universities, the majority of women are not enlisting. And it's not for lack of funding or any kind of assistance. The glass ceiling, so to speak, has been removed and the doors are wide open. I've even heard of some reports of universities actually artificially filling the seats with women to represent women more equally in the sciences and the fields that have been dominated by men. I find that amusing because women really have had an opportunity to get in there and make the difference that they claim they want to make. But they're not interested. They aren't enrolling. There are women who love technology. There are women who are engineers, but very few. There are not many. And that's not a problem. That's fine. We don't have to be equal, and we aren't equal. Most women love pretty dresses. Most women love a nice home. Most women love children. Most women love to have relationship. And the majority of us, while we do have hobbies and other interests, don't have the same obsessive focus that men have with their work. And once again, this is not a problem. Someone needs to raise the children. Someone needs to manage the home. Someone needs to cook good, healthy food. Otherwise, we're all going to die at the age of 30. Someone needs to be the glue of society. Because men are so cut and dry and goal-driven, they often consider relational issues minor compared to the bigger picture. Someone needs to handle the bigger picture. There have been quite a few psychological surveys done on the character traits of men and women, and if there is a average difference. One of the most conclusive conclusions is that women rate higher in agreeability, in agreeableness, and men rate lower. So women tend to be more congenial, more cooperative, and they say yes more easily. Men are less cooperative and more likely to give you a difficult time in making a deal or in agreeing to something, basically. So this does put women at a disadvantage, strategically speaking, because we will more likely agree to things that's not to our own advantage. And that's just because we are compassionate creatures. We are caring, and we do tend to think about the needs of others when we make decisions. Whereas men are cut and dry and they think of the bigger picture. They can detach from the emotions and make a cold, calculating decision and stick with it. Women just don't have that capacity. We can't disconnect from our feelings. It's necessary because, most men feel nothing for babies. They look at that baby and they don't feel compassion. When I look at a baby, I see something cute, adorable, and needs love and protection, and I want to hold him. But men don't see that. Very few men do. Someone needs to care for the babies. So this results in our methods of doing things and the way we do things and why we do things to be different. A woman's motivation to do something will usually have a compassionate motive. It will consider other people's feelings or the way it will impact other people, generally be a more accommodating decision. Whereas men will make the tough calls, long-term, more beneficial calls, because a lot of good business decisions are based on making tough calls. You have to let some things go. Someone sometimes has to lose a job. Men can make those decisions because they can disconnect from their feelings based on what is practically a long-term good decision. That's what they're good at. That's what it takes. Why am I highlighting gender differences? When we get outrages like rape and murder of women and abuse, the majority of outrage culture hops onto the men are trash hashtag and demand that men be better people. The fact of the matter remains, men are the ones in charge. And yes, I agree that men are responsible when, atrocities like this happen. The problem runs very deep, but the problem also goes down to the family structure. It goes down to fathers being fathers and raising their sons in the ways of God. This really brings me back to the patriarchy and the attack that is on the patriarchy by the radical left. The thinking is that it's the dominance of men that has led to the abuse of women. And nothing could be further from the truth. I'm telling you, nothing could be further from the truth. When godly men are in charge and leading, women are protected. This is the truth. Women are protected by godly men who fear the Lord and who teach their children, who run their homes according to the precepts of God and love their wives. Their wives are in submission to them. The wives obey them. That is how you have order in the home. The children respect the dad because the mom respects the dad, and you have order in the home. There is unison. The husband and wife are in agreement with one another, and there is a joyful unison between the two of them. The husband is getting the respect he needs. The wife is getting the love she needs. The children are getting the unified marriage they need to be safe and to feel safe, and you have a stable, strong family structure. When you have a community of families like this, there's no room for corruption. The kind of men who rule their homes with this kind of authority, they establish a strong community, and there is no room for the devil to work. Men who are serving God, who are in obedience to God, have the power to spiritually defend their community. So it's almost like an umbrella of protection over that community. This truth is illustrated through what happened in the Garden of Eden. When Eve was allowed to speak to the serpent on her own, she was deceived and misled. And because Adam didn't have or exercise any authority over Eve, he was also misled by her, because men have a weakness for women. It doesn't take much charm for a man to give in. So if he's not exercising authority or recognizing that he needs to take a stand and he needs to make a decision, the women run the show, and we end up with a disintegration and a certain chaos that creeps in. And I think it's definitely linked to the spiritual. Yes, of course, women dressing immodestly is also a problem. Women should be teaching younger women how to dress, for sure. When we have a societal structure like this, it cannot be broken. It is so strong because it is a beautiful and gentle way of living that is the way Christ wants the church to function. There's no armor. No one's carrying guns around. No men are beating their wives. And no children are walking around afraid. There's a freedom and a confidence among the people. And what I'm saying now sounds paradoxical and contrary to whatever you've been taught, especially if you've had a feminist mom or liberal thinking parents. All these principles that are in the Bible are not from Jewish culture. They are from the very beginning of time. Eve fell, Adam fell, and God came and cursed the serpent, and he cursed Eve, and he cursed Adam, he cursed the ground. And this is how we have it now. And yet when we abide within the new structure, within that structure that God put in place, there is perfect peace and happiness. I'd like to close with Jeremiah 6 verse 16, which calls us to look back and to find the old ways that God instituted. We think we're such an advanced society and that we're making such breakthroughs in technology, and we're an advancing race of great species that is making a way for itself into the future. We're just so impressed with ourselves. We have lost so much. When we think of ourselves on this timeline, we imagine that we started off as some hairy, itchy ape, and look at where we are now in our big glass mansions and our technology and holograms and whatnot. We're so limited, we're stuck in this timeline. God's not stuck in a timeline. God has always been. He is. That's his name. I am. Can you even fathom that? Everything that is true is him. We came from him. Like whatever we're doing here means nothing. It's just so futile. That is why the Lord says in Jeremiah 6 verse 16, "Thus saith the Lord, stand ye in the ways, and see, and ask for the old paths, where is the good way, and walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls. But they said, we will not walk therein. Also, I set watchmen over you, saying, hearken to the sound of the trumpet. But they said, we will not hearken. Therefore hear, ye nations, and know, O congregation, what is among them. Hear, O earth, behold, I will bring evil upon this people, even the fruit of their thoughts, because they have not hearkened unto my words, nor to my law, but rejected it. Now, the Lord, granted, is talking to the Israelites here when they practice all their idolatry and abandoned his ways. But the same applies here. God has always been the same. It's the same God. We are his people. He has set us apart. All of this requires a trusting God, women who trust their husbands, just a wholehearted commitment to seeking the ways of God and how he wants us to function together as a family unit, as a marriage unit, as a community. When we are in obedience to him, the fragmentation and the dissipation that we see around us is dealt with because everything is in obedience to God. So the way things are run are good. It's the only way. If we as women can vocalize that we appreciate authority, we appreciate the good leadership of good men who love the Lord, and we want those men to stand up and to establish good foundations of family leadership and leading their wives, and we support our husbands in that, we are well on our way to fixing these problems, and we won't need to lay out a whole list of rules enforcing certain rights for women, because at the end of the day, if there isn't a heart change in the way men view women and the way men view the world, the rules are going to constantly be broken. By having women protesting and clamoring and shaming men and trash talking them, we are not going to accomplish what we hope to accomplish. Men are not going to be made to change by our protesting. We need to vocalize that we want our men to be strong leaders and that we will submit to them. And of course, we want godly men in charge. So those of us women with godly men, submit to your husbands. You are the start of a true revolution that starts in the heart, and it has a ripple effect on everybody that you meet and that you know and that you have an effect on. That is how God's body works, and that is how he wants his society to work. God bless you and give you this insight and wisdom to understand and to trust, and to know how to demonstrate your submissiveness to your husband, that gives him the courage to stand up and take a stand against evil. God bless, go well, and remember to pray every day.